And Caitlin, wonderful to see you.
Good to see you.
What else do we know here?
Well, let's talk about Virginia. So that's where Lindsay Halligan is the acting or interim U.S. attorney, the person that Donald Trump sent there right before she herself walked into the grand jury to present the Comey case and then also secured the case against Letitia James. This is a prosecutor asserting her authority over an office that has a lot of very experienced and career people. We had seen a couple firings of longtime prosecutors in that office. We saw Comey's son-in-law, who was a prosecutor, resign. And then now, the woman who was briefly the interim U.S. attorney, a woman named Maggie Cleary, who actually hasn't been in that office that long, only a couple weeks. However, she was the first assistant to Halligan, and she has a lot more trial experience than Halligan. She's been removed out of the Eastern District of Virginia. And so Lindsay Halligan now has a very different regime that she's able to assert herself over as she's the prosecutor in Eastern District, Virginia. And one of the things that came out as Kristen Holmes and I were reporting this is that this is one of those moments where there's a dramatic exodus happening within the Justice Department, where people who may have any sort of dissension or any sort of hesitation about wanting to carry forward cases Donald Trump wants, those people are being sidelined or resigning or being fired. Maggie Cleary is the latest in that group of people. And one thing to note about Halligan that's pretty important is that her authority right now is going to be strongly questioned. There's a question of whether she can be serving in that role, something that Jim Comey in his case and his lawyers have already said they're going to challenge it. And challenges like that have been successful in other jurisdictions.
Elliot?
I want to pick up on one sentence or one clause that Caitlin had said, which is that there have been, quote, a couple firings of longtime prosecutors. That is profound and remarkable. It simply does not happen in U.S. attorneys' offices. And let's talk through specifically some of the ones that have happened. So Eric Siebert was the U.S. attorney, as Caitlin had noted, had expressed misgivings about the case. He's now gone. Ms. Cleary, who also had signed with prosecutors coming out of Republican administration, she was a senior level state prosecutor, I believe, under the Attorney General Jason Miyares and also under the governor, also fired when she expressed misgivings about the case. Two senior prosecutors along the way also had expressed misgivings about the case and got fired. Look, I understand that these are workplaces and people come and go, but we just did a block on authoritarianism and the kinds of things that are intensely problematic when they happen in prosecutors' offices because people are expressing concerns about cases.
The quiet part is getting said out loud, too. As one of those people was fired, he taped on his door the note that said, Justice Department leadership is more concerned with punishing the president's perceived enemies than they are with protecting our national security. So they're saying it inside.
I kind of wonder, does that help someone's case when they go before a judge? No. But if you're the defendant, if you're Letitia James or if you're Comey and you go before a judge, does that help your case to say these firings have occurred and people are claiming that it's political?
When you move to dismiss the case on the basis of selective prosecution, you can say, look, everybody in the office, it's been widely reported, everybody in the office who's expressed misgivings about political prosecutions somehow ends up losing their job. I'll teach you a term that you can use to dazzle at cocktail parties, Jamal. But speak about what's called the presumption of regularity.
I was hoping you would
look
say
at that.
So much excitement.
I don't know what kind of cocktail parties lawyers like to hang out with.
There's a concept in the law that the government is believed to be acting in good faith in when it engages with the court. They are losing that, and courts are beginning to say, we do not trust what comes out of the Justice Department because of the news that we are reading about what's being happening to career prosecutors there. Again, people are free to leave. They're free to go to the private sector and do whatever they want with their careers. But that's not, I think a little more is happening there, and there's plenty of evidence to suggest that something intensely problematic happening.
All right, so one of the other people that the president has often expressed irritation about, to put it relatively mildly, is John Bolton, his former national security advisor. And we have been reporting that this indictment for him is under review. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about why this may be different from James Comey and Letitia James. But first, let's watch the things that Donald Trump has said about John Bolton in the time since John Bolton worked for him. Take a look.
And I'm not a fan of John Bolton. I thought he was a sleazebag or a lowlife. That idiot John Bolton, he was so stupid. He was a maniac. He wants to always kill people. Bolton A real dope. He was a nut job, and everybody, I could see his face get red with that stupid white mustache, and he'd be ready to explode. He released massive amounts of classified and confidential, but classified information. That's illegal, and you go to jail for that. He's a criminal, and I believe, frankly, he should go to jail for that.
So Scott Jennings, briefly, I mean, what's going on with John Bolton, it started under Joe Biden, right? So do you see this as aligned with, I mean, you have said on this panel, right, the president's very open about his intentions and the people that he wants to go after. Is Bolton in that same group?
Well, I think because the investigation started under Joe Biden, it's hard to ascribe it to some vendetta campaign. And